Hi everyone, welcome back to the Novel Nomad and welcome to a very quick announcement video. This is not an announcement for a buddy read, but it's just saying that for the month of November, you'll be seeing some videos come up. They have been prepared and scheduled, but for the month of November, I will be in New Zealand. I am actually going on a month-long holiday around the beautiful Aotearoa New Zealand, and I have been preparing to read some books from New Zealand, and it's just been so much fun. Of course, I did naturally start off with very lofty ambitions in August, these being some of the lofty ambition books that I haven't quite got to. The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton, Aotearoa by Becky Manawatu, and The Bone People by Keri, Hume. Didn't happen. Very lofty ambition, these ones, but definitely still kept on my shelf because I really would love to read them once I'm back, so I have all that fresh knowledge of what it's like over in New Zealand. Obviously these will give me much more of an insight, historical fiction, more contemporary crime if you're interested in that one, and then also The Bone People is a bit more of a drama narrative. But yes, so I was wanting to read these, it did not happen. But you may be asking what I did read in preparation for my trip to New Zealand. Well, obviously I could not go past a few travel guides. Of course, I love reading travel guides. People who do all the work into these put so much time and effort into making these amazing. My favorite one was the best day walks in New Zealand. I won't be doing any multi-day treks. That especially was ruled out when I broke my leg in August. So only day walks for me, and I'm still going to have to take it careful according to my physio, but we'll see how I go when I'm over there. I won't push it too hard, but I'll have fun. But yeah, so best day walks in New Zealand. This was really amazingly helpful. We already had like a rough idea of where we're planning to go, but there was just so many options, and they showed you like pictures and different things that you could see along the way, different recommendations of perhaps a direction to walk in for best views or like easier terrain to walk in. But yeah, so this one was amazing. If you are ever planning to go hiking in New Zealand, this is definitely a pickup. The other travel narrative that I got for New Zealand is best road trips of the South Island. Now we will be driving around the North and South Island, but North Island was pretty much locked in straight away with what we wanted to do. So South Island was a bit more, which one should we choose best, which is the best route and everything like that. So this was very, very handy. It kind of allowed us to really come to terms with what we were picking, because there's so many things to do and see. You can't do it all in one holiday. We discovered that very early on. We had a big old list, and we're probably only seeing like 1/3 of that list of things that we would love to see and do when we are in New Zealand. But this was great. It allowed us to pick and choose our path and direction around New Zealand that would allow us to see the most places in the most amount of time that we had without feeling too rushed. I thought it was a much better like selection and pick for us. And lastly, because I am that person, I got the Lord of the Rings location guidebook. This was actually gifted to me by my very dear friend who will be joining me on the trip, and thankfully is also a Lord of the Rings nerd. So there will be no shame in going complete Lord of the Rings nerd when I'm over there. But this was also really handy, mainly because obviously Lord of the Rings looks amazing. And even the new Lord of the Rings series, The Rings of Power, was filmed on location in New Zealand. So some of those scenes where you just see like this amazing like cliff face where they've just pulled up the boats to, or in Lord of the Rings, all these amazing vistas and things like that is actually on location. So this is great to actually just go through and see where and when they use different locations. And then it has a lot of cute little like, cast comments and crew comments around, and different funny little stories. So if you are a Lord of the Rings nerd, it is great just to kind of get that behind the scenes experience. But yeah, we are going to a few Lord of the Rings filming sites because we know about them and they're just so handily like accessible in this book. I am actually going to be taking this one with me, so just in case we have like a free time up our sleeve and we just decide, why don't we just stop along the way and we'll see that gorge, or we'll go to that forest and different things like that. So yeah, these are great guidebooks. I highly recommend. Like, you can't go wrong in New Zealand. You're gonna have a great time anyway. But yeah, this was really good fun. So guidebooks aside, I only read 2 other books for my New Zealand trip, and both of them took a little while. I actually read one during Victober, which was probably why David Copperfield got a little bit shoved to the side. But otherwise, I did read one before that in August, and it was amazing. So the first one I read was called Sea People, The Puzzle of Polynesia by Christina Thompson. And the Māori people in New Zealand are part of the Polynesian people, and it was just utterly fascinating to not only read about their history, but to read the history that explorers and colonial settlers thought about the Polynesians, like the wild theories that they came up with. There was kind of like this anthropological fascination with the Polynesian people in the Victorian period, because the Victorian period was all about like people science, and like, you know, amateur researchers as such, and some other very weird sciences, let's be honest right now. But otherwise it was just this general fascination of these amazing people who managed to, you know, cover like a huge area of the Pacific without Western colonial navigation, but they had such a unique navigation system of their own that was amazing, and it works, and they're teaching it now. So it is brilliant, and it was such a brilliant history to read, and it kind of just opened my eyes up to how amazing the Polynesian people are, and how going to New Zealand I'm going to be experiencing that history, and it's going to be amazing. I said amazing a lot, I know, but I am very excited. So the last book I read and was a little bit surprised by, I must admit, and that is what is seemingly a very cozy book titled The Bookseller at the End of the World. So this is a memoir of Ruth Shaw's life. Now, Ruth is a bookseller in the 2 wee bookshops in Manapuri, which is down in the Fiordlands, right down south in the South Island of New Zealand. And basically these 2 little like shed bookshops are in her front yard, and apparently is just beloved, absolutely beloved place, and she's a beloved person. And you can kind of see that she kind of reiterates very strongly that everyone has a story to tell, or at least should tell their story, because to have a greater empathy and understanding of each other, it's good to tell these stories, and they are very hard to tell at times. And so you have Ruth discovering the need to tell her story, and then interspersed within her story, you have all these wonderful little snippets of life at the 2 wee bookshops. And it's just so much fun to read these absolutely hilarious stories. But then you kind of realize Ruth's story is not all about this nostalgia and wonder from growing up in New Zealand. It is an amazing read because she's incredibly honest about her life and about her fears and everything that she went through and what she was running from. For trigger warning for anyone, if there is a rape scene in this book, and I did advise one of my friends who is very uncomfortable in reading that, it is quite graphic because she's retelling it, and it's almost cathartic for her to be able to tell this from her own history and share it and really be able to express herself in that way. So I highly appreciate her telling her story like this, but also telling her fear and grief that followed that, and all the struggles that she went through. But then by the age she was 35, she managed to like sail boats around the Pacific, was held up by pirates in Indonesia. She had, a few divorces under her belt at that time. And it's just like, you could see such a life was lived through fear at times, but also through a keen sense of adventure. And she's just such a fascinating woman, and it's such a fascinating story. So I think the cover can be deceiving in the way that it seems cozy, and it is with the bookshop stories, but the memoir itself is very raw and real, and it's a beautiful story. She's a beautiful person. You can tell that from these pages. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed reading this, and I am actually going to the 2 wee bookshops when I'm down in Manapuri in the Fiordlands. We're actually staying at Te Anau, which is only 20 to 30 minute drive away, and we've decided to go visit Ruth at her bookshops down there. So this was really fun. I definitely recommend if you want like a really intense, beautiful memoir, but also one that's interspersed with fun and frivolity from a bookshop. Okay, so that's all I've done for my New Zealand reading in the way of reading. And I do have some other New Zealand books on my shelf, and I will be picking up some when I'm over there. But otherwise, follow me on my Instagram if you want to see the Novel Nomad once again nomading around New Zealand and having a wonderful time. Of course, I fully intend to post some videos of me over in New Zealand later on, probably around the January mark. December's going to be a bit nuts, but January I think will be a good time to post all these wonderful videos when I come back from New Zealand. So until then, happy reading and happy adventuring, and I'll see you next time. Bye.